Nothing like a big old hunk of steel laying out in the yard to really bring the man out in you, give you a little grit and a little want to. One of my buddies from work said, "Man, you don't want to hang that ugly thing up in your shop, you need to paint it first." I said, "Okay, that's a good idea." So after straining my guts out to get it up on the sawhorses, we're going to throw a coat of paint on there. And no, I'm not going to brush off or grind off the rust. I'm going to paint right over the top of it. I hooked a strap to the C-clamp so I could just lean back and pull, lean back and pull. And once I got the thing on the cement, well, it was smooth sailing from there. But always remember, when you're moving heavy stuff and you're picking it up, lift with your legs, not your back. If you lift with your legs, yeah, sure, you might give yourself a hernia, but they can fix one of those over the weekend and you'll be back to work on Monday. No big deal. But if you hurt your back, you're done for life. That's going to hurt from now on. Okay, so now that I've got the I-beam in the shop and up on the sawhorses, I went ahead and put the trolley on here. I'm going to make sure it's going to fit before I go any further. So how I done that was just removing these washers right here, these little spacers, until I got it to shrink down to the size that I needed. I think this one goes from 2 3/4 out to about 4 3/4. So I took these washers off, and the ones I had left over I put on the outside to space between the nut and this bracket. But that fits really, really well. It's very smooth. If you want to know what name brand it is, well, we'll just call it made by Amazon because that's where I got it. There ain't no way I can say that. Now it's time to make a layout. I have about 22 or 24 holes to drill so I can hang this thing from the ceiling. Now normally all your rafters would be on 2-foot centers, but mine are not. So I hopped up there, I got all my measurements, and then I made one pull. And I'm using this 2x4 as a little pattern to make all my marks so everything will come out the same. So this is basically the idea. I'm going to put these U-bolts over the top of my rafters coming down. We'll drill holes in it. These will slide on down like that, and then we'll put nuts on it from the bottom. And that's how it's going to hang from the ceiling. Okay, I drilled the first hole by hand just to show that, yeah, it can be done, but there's no way I'm drilling 22 holes in this thing with a drill. So I'm going to use the porta-mag. I brought it home from work. It makes things a lot easier. So this is the idea, and hopefully it'll work this good up in the ceiling as it did on these sawhorses. Every time I end up welding in one of my videos, I talk about the benefits of using a flux core welder. I mean, after you get used to it and with a little practice, you can make a very nice bead. I thought of several different ways to get this I-beam up in the ceiling. First, I was thinking maybe I can bribe my buddies with some pizza to come over and help me. And then I thought, well, my neighbor has a nice tractor. I bet I could lay it across the bucket and he could just raise it up to the ceiling. That would probably be the easiest thing to do. But then I thought, what if I set some ladders on my lift table, set the I-beam on top of it, and then just use the table to raise it up to the ceiling? But then I realized not everybody in the world has buddies that can come over and help when they need them, or a neighbor with a tractor, or a lift table. I had to become a little bit more practical. Well, it makes sense. I could see how it would pick it up and put it to the ceiling. But my question is how would you get that heavy thing on top of the ladders? Oh, well, that's easy. We're just going to take it one step at a time. Here's all my rigging. On one side, I'm going to use the overhead. I already got it, might as well use it. And on the other side, some ropes and pulleys. It'll end up being a 4-to-1 ratio. But I have to go up in the ceiling and rig all this stuff up. Having the ceiling in my shop made this so much harder than it had to be. Yeah, if the ceiling wasn't in the way, you could just put the I-beam up there, put the U-bolts in, and strap it to it, no problem. But I had to do a little extra figuring to drill all my holes through the ceiling, and once I got up there, I realized my lights are in the way, so I had to move them over about 6 inches. I don't know who built all these trusses, but these things look good. It was me. One tubby tubby. Two tubby tubby. What you smiling at, boy? Find a piece of candy in your pocket. Okay, so here I didn't cut anything out. I just sped it up a little bit. I wanted everyone to see about how long this took. It didn't take very long at all. But it is really nice when a plan comes together and everything goes the way you want it to. which in my case normally doesn't, but I'm not scared to try regardless. Now the first thing I did was get some U-bolts in this thing with some nuts on them. Once I had those in there, I was safe to walk under it again. I still left the ropes and pulleys on there. I mean, why not? They wouldn't bother anything. I did not take them off until after I got all the bolts in. So to do that, I crawled up in the ceiling and I pushed them through, and Ranger put the nuts on for me from underneath. And this is just a nice little view of what everything looks like up in the ceiling. Well, alright, it's going to take about an hour to tighten the rest of these up. And y'all don't want to watch me do that, so I'll get back to you when I get done. So after spending what seemed an hour or two trying to get that thing level, I'm going to come back with nylock nuts and put under the bottom for jam nuts. Because I want to make sure this thing ain't going to fall. But as soon as I get done with that, we got to come back and cut all these bolts off with a cutoff wheel or something, because they're way too long. It's a good idea before you cut the bolts off to just run a nut up here, and then when you cut it off right here, you can take the nut off and that'll straighten the threads back out for you. The size of these U-bolts is 3/8 in diameter, 3 inches wide, and 7 inches long. And I'm glad I got them 7 inches way too long, because that made it a lot easier to finagle them in all the holes and line everything up. Now it's time for its first load bearing test. If I did my math correctly, the I-beam by itself weighs 260 pounds, and that's spread across 10 trusses. So that means each truss is holding 26 pounds apiece. So by picking up this lawnmower, say it weighs 500 pounds, that would mean each truss is supporting 50 pounds apiece. Now crawling around up there, I was standing on one truss by myself and I weigh 150. So if each truss will support 150 pounds, times 10, that's 1,500 pounds. I don't plan on ever picking up that much weight with this. I'm not going to put it to the test to find out. But it will pick up all the weight I ever plan on picking up with it. But I'm satisfied with this little project. I'm glad I did it, and I've already got my uses out of it. But y'all, like always, thank you so very much for watching here at the house.